January 7th, Littleton Planning Board meeting. I see I have most members of the board. I'm just waiting on Jerry. Did you send it, Maren? Did you send him a? I did talk to him today, so I'm assuming he knows about it. Did you send him a reminder?
Okay, will do.
So. Well, we can start with our 6:30 agenda anyway. Is there any public input? Anyone want to talk to us about anything related to the planning board not on our agenda?
Right, and just use the raise your hand feature if you want to be recognized.
There are no raised hands, sir.
Okay, we'll move on from there. So board member updates. We'll start, I guess probably the most important person is Delisa. We can update us on the where we're at with Littleton Station.
Yeah, so on, I guess it's next week, on January 12th, we have a meeting with Peter Finkler. He will be presenting his recommended design guidelines along with the draft of the 40R zoning bylaw amendment. So based on whatever input we give him, we then hope to present, or I guess we actually are planning to present our recommendations to the planning board on January 21st. So we'll know more next week.
So then we want to schedule, then that board will want to schedule something, a joint meeting with the planning board and the select board about where we're at with the 40R, and if we do think we're going to make it to town meeting for May.
Yes.
Is that what the?
Yeah. So Maren, I think you've already had some, you've already reached out or notified Cindy Napoli of our intention to meet and issued an invitation. So
Correct.
I guess the thing we need to communicate to them is the time on the 21st when we expect to have Peter with us.
Okay. So if we start with the 40R discussion at 6:30, then we could move to the TDR session discussion after that, maybe 7:30.
Okay.
And then other board business to follow.
Okay. That sounds good to me. Mark, are you good with
That's
that?
fine with me. Yep. No, that's
Okay.
good. Just wanted
So
to
that
make sure that we were including the select board in the as we move forward. Now that we have a good working draft of what the 40R is going to look like as we start moving forward. Sure. No, that's great.
Yeah, and let's also go ahead and let Bartlett know for affordable housing.
Okay.
Although I know, Mark, you're also involved, obviously, in that, but just
Yeah.
let's just cover all our bases, make sure we're emailing or notifying all the appropriate people.
Make sure everybody's happy. Yes,
Yes,
I
we
agree
don't want
100%.
anybody to feel left out. So,
Yes. Great. Any other board members have updates? Anyone? Anna, anything? Nope. You're good? I'm good. I don't think anything else from the Affordable Housing Trust. And we're still waiting on Jerry, right?
Yeah, he's on his way.
Okay. How about minutes? You want to work on the minutes? Does anyone have any problem with the minutes that were sent to us from December 10th? Anna?
No, just wanted to say thank you to Maren and staff for being able to get those. They were very helpful, actually, for this meeting.
Okay, so do we want to approve the minutes as presented? Anyone want to make a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
A second?
Second,
All those in favor? Anna?
yes.
Delisa?
Yes.
Is Jeff able to do anything? Can you nod, Jeff? I think you're still on mute.
Yes.
Oh, okay, Jeff, yes, and I'm a yes. So that's good. So the minutes of December 10th are approved and we'll archive those. How about bills and payroll? Anything outstanding, Maren?
Let's see, I sent you bills last month and got those signed, and you signed the payroll today. So we're up to date on that. Thank you.
Okay, everything's good. What about other? Do we have any other issues that we need to discuss?
Well, I was very excited about the legislation that passed late last night.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah.
Night before, actually.
Yeah, whatever day it is. The state legislature passed portion of the housing zoning reform bill that deals with smart growth. So cities and towns that are looking at 40R zoning or apartments, basically apartments near commuter rail stations, require a 50% vote at town meeting, no longer a 2/3 vote at town meeting.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good. That'll make the.
That'll help us.
Yes. Make it easier, let's put it that way. So,
Yeah, makes the path a little more clear. And then that legislation also redefined or put into state law a lot of the definitions for transfer of development rights. So while a lot of cities and towns have been doing TDR, it's now better reflected in state law.
great.
Yeah.
So,
And lots of grant funding to be coming over the next 4 or 5 years.
great. What about moving along the grant fund? Are we still trying to get grant money for the 40R that we're looking at on the train station side? Are we still trying to go forward with that, Maren? Or help, not really grant money, but help from Magic and from the state for the 40R?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Monday night, the select board will consider a request to MAPC for help on the mapping and the spreadsheet that has to get filled out and submitted to DHCD as part of the 40R application process. These things have to happen before town meeting in order for us to make the spring town meeting.
So do we need select board approval on that in order to even apply for that funding?
Yeah. Yeah, and that'll be in front of the select board on Monday night.
I thought Anthony could approve it. It has to be the board.
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
It's on the select board agenda and it's
Okay.
ready for their meeting packet tomorrow.
Are we anticipating any pushback or?
Oh, no, I don't think so. It's
Okay.
just part of the communication
Okay,
needs to go on.
But do you want to go to the meeting, Delisa, on Monday?
not really, but if I
Okay.
have to, certainly. But I figured Chuck will be there and Chuck's part of the
Yep,
Littleton
And
Station.
so will Matt. Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
Matt will
Chuck
be
and
there.
Matt and Joe and I have been communicating
Yeah.
about it, so.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to volunteer you for one more thing, Delisa.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right. So, any other issues, Maren, before we start our long night?
I'm good, thank you.
We're good?
Mhm.
It's just waiting on Jerry, right?
Jerry's here.
Oh, okay.
So Lauren, I recuse myself for this. Do you want to text me when I can come back on or?
We'll bring you back into the meeting, ma'am.
Okay, so what do I do? Just,
We will actually be putting you back into the waiting room,
okay.
and then we'll release you back into the main group again.
Okay, so I don't have to do anything on my end.
Hopefully not, ma'am.
Okay,
My cohort's ready to roll on that one. Thank you.
okay.
I mean, it looks like it's only going to be 5 or 10 minutes anyway, Delisa, so.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, well, we're all here. We have a 6:40 continued site plan, special permit, water resource district. We've already voted it. Now we just have to go over the conditions of approval for 160 Air Road, the consolidated marijuana facility there. Has everyone seen a copy of the plan, the conditions of approval, the approval for 160 Air Road? Does Mara, you sent it out to everyone, right? We all have a copy of it. Does anyone have any questions about it before we go over it or as we go over it?
No, I don't have any questions, but I do have a question for LCTV. So we can still see Delisa. Can she?
No, ma'am. Once she's reclused, she's not in the active meeting.
Oh, she's in the meeting.
Yeah, I can hear you and see you.
Okay, so my apologies. There are some technical details at times that need to be worked.
Okay,
Oh, now she's off.
but I can hear you and I can still see you.
So
Well, no, you just the people in Boxborough can hear and see you. Dave.
Hold on, please.
Debbie, I think I just put her in the waiting room. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
You're all set.
Okay,
thank you very much, folks.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, all right, so we have the back again to 160 Air Road, the special permit, Aquifer Water Resource District, site plan, retail special permit. We have the draft decision in front of us, and if there's anyone has any issues with it, let's address it now and get ready to figure out how we're going to sign these since we're all remote. We'll figure that one out. So anyone have any questions? Anna, do you have any issues with it as a final draft sits before us, or hopefully the final draft?
No, I think that all of the questions that were raised at the December meeting have been addressed in this. So thanks to everybody for making that happen.
Okay, Jerry, do you have any issues with it?
No, I don't.
No. Jeff,
Nope.
you're good, and I'm good with it. So how do we go about signing this bond? What's the procedure these days?
So usually I just coordinate with Jeff as the clerk on signing it. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so basically we've already voted it. We voted in all the conditions.
It
Uh,
probably be a good idea to go ahead and vote the final wording as presented.
Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion that we approve the final draft decision as presented to the planning board?
I'll make a motion that we approve the draft decision as presented to the planning board.
Second? Anna, you want to second it?
No.
No? Jeff, do you want to second it?
I'll second it.
Oh, geez, Anna, you're getting testy in you these days.
Want to second it?
All right, all those in favor, I'll take a roll call vote. Jeff, since you're on the screen. Jerry,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So it's all four of us who voted in affirmative. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we can get Delisa back in.
Process of that, sir.
Oh, we'll give you a couple of minutes. We know that you're new to this. Just kidding. Okay.
She's back. She just needs to unmute herself and turn her camera on.
Yep.
Am I allowed to be back?
You
You're
bet
back.
you are, ma'am.
Okay,
Welcome
all
back.
right.
Great. So we have a 6:45 continued public hearing. Water resource special permit, 80 Air Road and site plan review. This is for the old, as ever, most people, the people that have been in town a few years, the old Sandville batching plant location for truck scales, associated improvements, and the previously approved silos, demolition of 7 silos and adding of 3 silos there. Do we have someone from the,
Yes.
actually it's Bruce, right?
Well, let's see. I think Kyle Burchard is here from GPR. Burchard,
Okay,
Kyle, if there's anybody else that's with you, expecting to present have them raise their hands or give me their names.
Burchard is now in.
Thank you.
Bruce Ringwald.
Bruce should come in.
Is that all we expect?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Great. So where are we in regards to where we left it on in the last meeting?
Good evening and Happy New Year all. Kyle, your head's cut off if you want to adjust your camera.
All right, flip down there. Thank you.
Okay. At our last meeting, you had requested that we have the property owners available. They are available and are in the waiting room and present. We have Mark Landry from TMC, Patrick Hines from TMC, and Dominic Demers from McInnes.
Which of those would you like in, kind sir?
They can all just relax where they are right now unless the board has questions for them at any point.
Very good. Let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. So at the last meeting, there were several different questions raised. And since then, there's been a bunch of questions that have filtered down to us. We have supplied the board with a number of items, and I'd like to kind of do a recap of all of that. The board has an updated plan before them that is from Ross Associates dated 12/14/20. And if you don't mind, I can have Kyle share and we can put that up on the screen. Super. This plan addressed a number of items that we were talking about previously. The previous plan, there was a couple of question marks relative to what plan we were using because there was a plan that had a similar date but not a stamp with Littleton Light and Water, and a plan that had been submitted to the board that was stamped that had monitoring wells in a different place than those that Littleton Light and Water had approved. That is all addressed on this plan. There are several monitoring wells that exist. There's actually more monitoring wells that made it through the demolition than everybody thought when they were on site. Corey Godfrey from Littleton Light and Water and Kevin Mark from Ross Associates had reviewed those. There are several monitoring wells down near the furthermost southern portion of the property where Kyle's highlighting right now that are going to be refurbished and rejuvenated to make certain they're in good working order. And then one additional well, replacing one that was destroyed in this area that he's highlighting right now, that will be put in. So those are the monitoring wells. One of the big things that has changed is the rail spur has been removed. The applicant will not be using the rail spur. The rail spur was approved in the 2017 piece with the storage of rail cars. That is not necessary relative to the design and the modeling that the applicant has looked at relative to their proposed uses. As we talked before, there was 11 silos of various sizes that housed the cement on the property previously. Those have been removed as per the 2017 decision. And in the 2017 decision, there were 3 silos to hold the cement product and a scale, truck scale, weight scale for the weighing of the trucks as they come and go with the product on it. That has been changed to a slightly different position as is shown on this plan, and down from 3 silos to just 2 silos. And the operation has been modified slightly with the reduction of the rail spur, with the reduction of the housing that the rail spur loading and unloading had on it, and the reduction of the number of silos. The sound study that was done by Kavanaugh and Tosi and permitted through DEP and in accordance with the DEP sound guidelines, as well as the Town of Littleton zoning bylaw guidelines, has all been modified and run through for these changes that I just reviewed with you. You have received a copy of that sound study, and the long of the short of it is that that sound study shows an average reduction of 0.4 to 5 decibels at the various different residential receptors that were set up along places on Harvard Road, Bruce Road, and one further road to the north that I don't remember the name of. And a much greater reduction at the property line itself. But the reductions that we're careful and concerned about are those at the receptors of the residential properties. So those are big reductions and things that have occurred relative to the filing. And again, this is a refiling of what had been requested and granted in a permit back in 2017, 16, 17. So one of the questions that came up was relative to the sound monitoring and whether or not intermittent noise levels could be, set up and through there. And in the response that was sent out a week ago to the planning board, we talked about the fact of the extent of the study and the analysis, and that this has all been done by a professional company. Intermittent noise levels is a hard thing to try to pick up. There was some concern about some one-off accidents that had happened. Some of the butters had written in a letter about where they had cement that had hardened in a truck and they were jackhammering it out. This has been addressed by a process of new steps within the company and their operations from the top down to the drivers, so that this type of scenario is avoided in the future. And since those steps have gone in place, they have been avoided. There was questions about lighting. The plan that is before you and the plan that was submitted previously to this shows various different lighting throughout the parking lot. There is no proposed additional lighting for these towers or these silos. They're not tall enough to warrant lighting. They have no additional lighting on them. The concrete batching plant also has no lighting on it. And it, again, is not tall enough for any required downlighting. The site is actually fairly dark at night. All the lighting that's there is done in conformance with the Littleton zoning bylaw for cutoff and shielded. It's all aimed at the property. So I believe that, we can talk about the lighting, but I don't believe there's anything additional that needs to be addressed there. There is a question that was raised relative to toxic and hazardous materials used and stored on the site. That is a process that has gone through in previous aquifer permits relative to inside the building. There is no additional materials being proposed to be brought onto this site. This is just bringing in the silos for the cement. All the hazardous materials inside are on file with Littleton Light and Water, and there have containment structures for spill protection as is necessary. There was a question about the site plan showing the full boundary. And as Kyle zooms out to show the full site plan, you can see here that the northernmost boundaries, the western and eastern boundaries are all shown, and up in the locus right above is a picture depicting the full site. Basically, Kyle, if you can highlight on the larger site plan right where it says Air Road 2A, that bend right there from the tick mark just to the right of the block he's just put on there, there's 800 feet to the southeast of the property. So a lot of the wetland in the area going over in front of the Littleton Light and Water office building is part of their property, and it wasn't shown on this blow up of the site plan because it would take away from the detail that we're able to show, or Ross was able to show in the site plan that's shown here. I already addressed the two different site plans he had previously. This is the site plan now. It's a November 14, 2020 date on it.
December.
And lastly, there was a question of hours of operation. As you all may recall, this property has had a number of permits over the years, but it also had a major industrial permit issued in 2013. There is no true limitation on the hours of operations on the property. They typically try to work during normal business hours. There are occasions when they need to move equipment or get stuff off to a project a good distance away that they need to move material in and out of the site at later or off hours. But typically it's during the work hours. But again, there are no limitations on the current permits on the hours of operation. Hopefully, that brings us up to speed on the questions that were asked at the previous hearing. Again, we've reduced the noise issues of the rail line, the storage of the rail cars on the site, and the reduction of the silos. And we've provided you with the noise study. I turn it over to you for your questions.
Thank you, Bruce. My first question is the transfer of the cement into the tractor trailers that'll be at the silos. What's the hours of that operation? Is that 8 to 4:30? Is it normal business hours for that?
No, typically that would be the normal operation hours during the day. But if there was a load that needed to go for some particular purpose, they have the ability of doing that. The loading mechanism is a much quieter mechanism than in the older fashioned things. It's an electronic motor that has a suction device on it. So it's a much quieter operation than previous ones.
And outdoor work on the vehicles, that's going to be kept to a minimum. That was, as you said, that was one of the issues with the residents. Pounding concrete or jackhammering concrete out of a vehicle outside at all hours of the night.
Right. We hope that never happens again. Getting concrete solidified in a truck is not a fun thing. And as I said, that DMC has put new procedures into place, and they don't anticipate that problem because they've worked it all the way down the line, so everybody knows what they're doing.
Okay. That was my two questions. Does anyone have any questions? Anna, do you have any questions?
Yes. So if some of the operating managers could get on, that would be great. I just wanted to ask some questions about the new.
Would you like them visually or just have it so that they have the ability of speaking?
Either way.
Okay. So we'll put on Patrick Hines and
can you have them raise their hand, please?
Excuse me?
Just have to raise their
hands.
So, Patrick, if you could raise your hand in the bottom of your screen. Just click the button. It's
Patrick, you got to bring up the participants list, and then there's a button on the bottom of the participants list to allow you to raise your hand. So if you can do that, and it should be good.
Hello.
Patrick's on.
All right.
All right. There we go. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hayes. So I guess my question is, when I hear that a new truck scale is going to replace an old one, part of what I was wondering is how much more traffic will be expected, or what is the increase in the use? Because typically if somebody has an older piece of equipment and then they're replacing it, what does that really mean in terms of the actual operation? How much will it change?
Let me help you with that, and Patrick can correct me if I'm wrong, but there was not a scale There was a scale approved in the 2016-17 operation. This is a scale to go along with it. And the estimated number of truck trips would be 9 vehicles on an average day. That obviously goes down with seasonal use. And that would be 9 vehicles, trucks into the site, 9 trucks out of the site. So 18 trips. Is that right, Patrick?
Yes, that's correct.
So I recall seeing on one of the maps, it wasn't the site plan, in terms of the actual travel of the trucks when they come in and then unload and then they depart, because on the site plan, it's a little unclear as to where the road exactly is that they would be taking.
They would come in either entrance from 2A. And then in general, we have them come out the lower entrance, which is the closest to 495, because that's the flattest entrance and they have the best sight distance. And then once up on the site, they would traverse basically directly to the cement silos.
Okay. Thank you. And then I know that Mr. Ringwald responded to hours of operation. And so is that going to change at all in terms of now that you have the scale in place?
Again, as Mr. Ringwald said, it depends on the customer need. And if the customer needs a load of cement to go out early morning or late evening, in general, that doesn't happen. But if there's ongoing infrastructure activities such as a bridge deck pour or a big pour in downtown Boston, and the cement trucks need to get cement, they come in and they get it. The conveyance system coming out of the silos is just that. It's an electric motor, which is virtually silent. So it'd be just the diesel purring of the trucks. There's really minimal noise coming in and out at that hour.
Okay, thank you. I think those are the questions that I had on operations.
Okay. Jerry, do you have any questions or concerns?
No, I don't.
You're good. Delisa?
No, I do not.
Jeff?
No, I noticed the removal of the spurs, which I like. It was sort of undefined what those were going to be for, so I'm glad to see that.
Okay. Mara, do we have anybody with their hands raised who want to speak about this?
There are no raised hands other than Mr. Hayes.
Okay.
So I did have one other question. So it's not operations related, but so the stormwater O&M plan, so is that being updated and what's the status of that?
It most certainly is. We have submitted an updated O&M to the Conservation Commission. We have met on site with the Conservation Commission on several different occasions. They met previously with Kevin Mark and then with our staff as well. With Patrick and his staff, they have been working diligently and upgrading what they have been doing. And then Kyle has worked with them to add some additional steps. All that has been put into an O&M that has been submitted to the Conservation Commission. We have a continued hearing with them on Monday night, and we believe we've addressed all that. We've got them removing sediment from various different conveyance systems of the drainage on the site. We've done pH testing of the basins on site, and the water levels are actually better on site than the passing stream that would receive any runoff water from the site. So we have been addressing every single question that has come up with the Conservation Commission. And as we mentioned, and as the application from Ross mentions, that all this activity is on existing impervious area. And, because of the questions that was raised from the Conservation Commission, we're definitely modified and the applicant has modified their procedures towards sweeping and maintaining of the BMPs on the site.
Thank you. Zach?
One other thing I will add is that we added in a industrial, now I'm going to pull a brain cramp on it. Kyle, refresh my memory on the names.
Multi-sector.
Thank you. A multi-sector general permit. This is a NIPIDs permit. As you guys are aware, when you do construction where you clear more than an acre of land, you have to do a general purpose general permit. And that's for construction. But when you have a site such as this that has the capacity to have dust and or erosion occurring as part of the general process, there's a multi-sector general permit through NIPIDs that is being prepared. And we're in the process of putting that together with TMC's help. And that has been discussed with the Conservation Commission to be in place, filed in place prior to, prior to use of the occupancy or use of the new silos. Is that what it was, Kyle?
Yes, that's right.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Maren, I have one question.
Yep, and there are a couple hands raised now as well.
All right, well then I'll wait. Why don't you take the people with their hands raised first?
Okay, Jenny Outman.
Hi, thank you. My question is about the rail spur. I understand we're at 75 Harvard Road. I understand that the rail spur is being removed for this particular permit. I'm curious if the company has plans in the future to pursue the rail spur.
Not at this time, no. There was discussion originally back in 2015 to bring the cement in via the rail spur for the silos, and based on studies that they've done, it's a cheaper and more efficient process to bring it in by truck.
Thank you. And this is David Outman, 75 Harvard Road. Follow-up question with regard to traffic. Noted 9 trips in, 9 trips out. I was wondering if you could tell me or tell us how many trips are currently in and out.
Not a clue.
The company, somebody from the company?
Patrick, do you have an idea of how many vehicle trips occur from the site on an average day?
I do. Give me 5 seconds.
Okay. Would you like to go on to another question? We can come back to that while Patrick looks that up.
It depends on, follow-up question depends on the response to that question.
Okay.
Plus or minus, again, it all depends on the season and the amount of concrete we produce in a particular day. But it would be an average of 50 trips. That would include the concrete going out and then coming back in the raw materials, that being sand and stone, coming in and cement to make the concrete. That's a rough number. I'd have to go back and do an average, but that's a rough number.
Thank you. So it sounds like though that's 9 is within that 50, or that's 9 additional trips on top of the 50?
The 9 would be in addition to that, yes.
And are the trips, the truck scale, the use of the truck scale, is that only for activity originating on site, or is that scale, will that be used as part of the network of the company?
That would be used in conjunction with the manufacturer of the concrete, in addition to selling it to retail customers that are being other concrete manufacturers.
Okay.
So another company would come in, get a load of cement from these silos, and then go back to their plant and blow it into their plant for use in concrete.
Right. That's still like connected with the business though. I was just I was just wondering if there might be trucks that are taking taking advantage of now a scale located in a convenient location off the highway that, they might not necessarily be picking up concrete or not, but for one reason or another, they need to have the trucks weighed.
No, that would not be occurring here.
Thank you. And the reason that I asked that, the traffic, I really like the work that's been done. I commend the planning board for the work done on the master plan, and just noting that, that the trips, the high school and is between the plant and the 495 exit. And the plan for the section between King Street down, to the schools is to make those walkable streets. We are supportive of business here in town and appreciate the tax revenues and so forth, but just want to point that up, that additional trucks in some way, they're not always consistent. The emissions that go along with diesel fumes, the size and so forth, for kids trying to bike along, new sidewalks or other things, they don't necessarily go together. So I think traffic is an important part of this with the installation of the new scale.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that for a minute. I cross in front of the high school almost every morning. You guys should talk to your drivers about respecting that crosswalk. Now that you're bringing up traffic.
Will do. Point taken. Thank you.
Okay, Maren, anyone else have their hand raised?
P. Hayes.
Yes.
That's Patrick.
Oh, sorry.
There's Heidi.
Heidi Cerullo.
Heidi, are you there?
I'm here. It was not allowing me to unmute, but I'm here now. So Heidi Cerullo of 115 Harvard Road. So my question is, so first of all, we are very happy to hear that the rail spur is out and some of the things that the company's going to be doing around noise mitigation. We think that's great. One of our questions is with the additional traffic, there's existing noise from the backup alarm that happens when the trucks back up, the beeping noise. And I'm just wondering if there's something that can be done about that to, change the pitch or quiet that. Because of the hill and the canyon that we kind of live in, the noise really does travel. And with additional traffic, we're concerned about, that noise.
So we do have backup alarms on all trucks, which, as you would imagine, that is a safety precaution. So if you hear a backup alarm, your ears go up and you try not to get run over with someone backing up. We have retrofitted the trucks with a switch, and it goes to a different sound. So instead of the high-pitched beat, it goes to a swoosh. I don't know if you ever heard it. It's literally a swoosh sound. So we've trained our drivers, our plant managers, myself, our foreman, to switch those trucks over to the swoosh sound. Basically, if we start before 6 a.m., we switch that over, or if we're working on a Saturday. So we have addressed that.
Is it possible to do that all the time?
We could certainly discuss that internally, yes.
Okay, that would be great.
Thank you, Heidi. Maren, anyone else have their hand raised?
Kathy Romer. Why am I not seeing her? There she is.
She should be alive now. Ms.
Kathy,
Romer, we're not hearing you.
Microphone shows noise, but I'm not hearing anything.
Kathy, are you there? Hello? Kathy, are you there?
marked by the participant board, you can see that she's trying to say something. There's little sound waves coming out of the phone symbol, but not getting through.
Unfortunately, we don't, she's muted herself.
Okay. Maren, is there anyone else?
No other hands raised.
All right, well, I just have one quick question, and then if Kathy's still there, we can get back to her. In our decision, have we incorporated, and this is for you, Maren, have we incorporated any of the conditions of approval that we gave to like the Stone Yard as far as noise and mitigation of noise after like 4:30, 5 o'clock? Like, I know at the Stone Yard, we made it so that if they were going to work on vehicles, wherever possible, to be be inside the I'm just trying to, I think Heidi hit upon it. They're in a bowl, so everything that's down there travels up to her. And if there's any way we could, it sounds like noise and noise is the biggest concern of the residents up there. Is there something that we can take from how we approved the Stone Yard to kind of mitigate some of the noise that's caused, and not on a general basis, it's when something goes wrong or they have to do extra work after 8 to 4:30. I don't remember off the top of my head what we had in there, but we did have, because it's the same kind of situation at the trailer park right behind the Stone Yard, and noise after 4:30 became an issue there. So,
Yeah, I'm happy to draft some conditions for your review, but there's nothing drafted at the moment.
all right, so maybe once we work on it, so we could try to incorporate some of the noise mitigation stuff that we put with the Stone Yard, which is pretty similar to what we have going on here. Is everybody okay with that?
Okay, so I think we can try Kathy again.
All right. Kathy, are you there? Hello? Kathy? No, guess not. Hello?
Mr. Romer, if you could try calling back in and joining the meeting, we'd be happy to pull you back in.
We'll give her a minute or so. Moving along with this, I guess I would like to close the hearing, and if there's any issues with it, either vote to approve it or write the conditions of approval and vote to approve it at our next meeting. The board doesn't have any problem with that. We'll wait for Kathy. Jerry, do you have any issues with that?
That's fine.
Anna? Did I lose Anna too?
You're on mute.
That seems like a good course of action.
Okay. Delisa?
I'm fine with approving it.
Okay. And Jeff?
I am fine with that, although I do think we should give our best effort to addressing the noise concerns.
And I agree with that. That's why I'd like to put some of the stuff we had from the Stone Yard, which was an issue, into their conditions of approval. Kathy, are you around? Can we hear you now?
No, I think she's not come back in, sir.
Okay, well,
Yeah, you had in the comments section, we did have input from Kathy before. And I hope she emails me with any other concerns. I'll reach out to her by email tomorrow.
okay, well, does the board want to close the hearing and vote it with the conditions of approval at our next meeting?
Yes.
Does anyone have an issue with that? So then I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to close the hearing.
Anyone, Jeff, you want to second that, or somebody want to second that?
I will second.
All right, so I'll take a voice vote to close the hearing. Delisa?
Yes. Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, so we'll vote it, we'll close it. Maren will we'll pass around conditions of approval, and when is our next meeting, Maren?
The next meeting with public hearings will be February 4th.
Okay.
Do it that date.
Is it
Okay.
possible to do this before then? We gotta try to get permits to get the construction going here.
Are we doing something on the 21st? We're meeting on the 21st, Maren?
Correct.
Can we put it on? What do we have going on for the 21st?
It's up to you. It'll be busy, but it always is.
All right, why don't we try to put them on for the 21st?
That's what we shoot for.
Thank you very much.
That work for you, Bruce?
Thank you very much.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
I never do, Mark.
All right, thank you. All right.
Mark,
What?
I mean, in the 21st of January,
Mhm.
maybe.
Was that the night we were playing poker, Jerry? Just kidding.
Can't leave Littleton anyway, Jerry. You might as well come to the meeting. Right. All right, anyway, so we have a continued public hearing, 7:15. Major commercial special use.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Water Resource District Special Permit, 151, 153 Taylor Street, site plan review, Amazon, the last mile warehouse. So do we have everybody that's involved in that? We have Larry Beals here, and I don't know who else with his team is here. Maren?
Could those folks raise their hands, please, to make it easier to get them in?
We also have town council. I see town council's floating around there somewhere. Is everybody here?
We're closing that. Not yet. We're closing in on it.
All right, so I'll start
Good.
housekeeping while we wait for everybody. So the planning board has gotten a draft copy of we all voted the site plan, special permit with conditions of approval. We all have that. We also have a host community agreement that has been drafted by town council and council for Northbridge that has been sent over to us. Not that we worked on it. Some of the issues were our issues, but they're going to be addressed by the select board. And tonight is just the finish up the conditions of approval, and I hope vote this evening, unless we have any outstanding concerns. So I hope everyone's had a chance to look at the draft decisions that have been sent, and we can get started if we have any questions about it. So is everybody there, Maren? Can we start the
Yeah, it looks to me.
okay. So I'm going to open up with the board. Anyone has questions? Just as an arbitrary decision, I think I'll start with Anna, see if she has any questions or concern. Oh, she's muted. You know what? Does that mean no?
It means that I have some questions, but since I missed my turn, I'll wait till the end. Thank you.
Okay. Jeff, do you have any questions or concerns about the rough drafts that you've seen, or hopefully you've seen?
No, I think that, Mr. Chair, if you would talk about the host community agreement and the water department ancillary issue.
Okay. And I guess I'll bring us up to speed then. So some of the decisions, some of the conditions of approval will be either in our decision, some will be in the host community agreement. One of them that's very important, and I know we're being broadcast in Boxborough, so I want to make sure that Boxborough residents understand that we're taking this very seriously about traffic detouring through Boxborough that's not intended for Boxborough. So we have talked to Northbridge and through them Amazon that we're going to put a sign up at the end of the road, no right turns. And if anyone's caught making a right-hand turn, they're going to be fined. And the reason we put it in a host community agreement so that the town of Littleton can redo our bylaw so that it's not a punitive fine. It'll be something along the lines of $300 every time they get caught doing it. So we are taking it seriously, hopefully $300. So town council and their council is working on that, has worked on that. Also that the Northbridge has graciously agreed to donate all the extra land, all the open space, all the land surrounding both the parking lot and the distribution facility to the tune of approximately 58 acres will be donated to the Littleton Water Department for water department use and passive recreation, meaning it abuts very nicely to the back of the land that is now part of the Sudbury Valley Trust. So you'll be able to access all the land behind it through the Sudbury Valley Trust. And I believe there's some ways to get in it off of Monarch Drive. So Northbridge should be commended that they thought that it was important to protect the Littleton Water Department water. So they're donating it all to the water department so that they can control it and make sure that our well supply is safe and protected. So that's part of the host community agreement as well, even though it's referenced in our decision. It will be donated to the town once once we approve this, they'll do an A&R to break off the 58 acres to donate directly to the water department. Some other stuff is we've talked about electric cars. We would like to see sooner rather than later, once that process starts rolling out with Amazon, a commitment by Amazon. We have some wordage. I know Anna's a little concerned about the wordage because it doesn't hold an exact number of the cars, but we're going to make Amazon responsible that as they start rolling out their fleet of electric cars, that Littleton will be in line to get electric vehicles. Also put in the infrastructure while they're building the facility to allow for electric cars in the parking lot. We've reduced the parking lot from 650 spaces to, I believe it's 450, and Amazon or Northbridge has agreed that there'll only be 250 vans permanently parked on the parking lot that Littleton will receive. And every van that's parked there for more than 3 months will be paying excise taxes to the town of Littleton. There will be a flex time, being the winter months when people obviously use the Amazon facilities more, that number will increase temporarily. And then once that's done, move back down to the 250. There'll be spots for 60, I believe, flex vans. That'll be vans from other companies or other people to help with the distribution of Amazon product. There's going to be bathrooms. There'll be 3 bath stalls or 3 bath compartments out there for bathroom use. I don't know. I think I've lost it by about there. And there's a monetary. There is some infrastructure that needs to be upgraded in order for this to happen. We're going to finish the sidewalks from coming up from the train station up Taylor Street, upgrade the water supply system that will be servicing Taylor Street is one of the other things earmarked. Increase police and fire equipment to facilitate, to better serve the town of Littleton for that end of town. I guess there's an issue with equipment for that. That will be addressed as a condition of approval. And have I missed anything, Lauren? Was that a good Reader's Digest version of 30 pages of stuff?
Yeah, that was a good Reader's Digest version. Either Chris or Dan are both present if you want them to review any of it, but
I think that's the high points. So having said that, I'll see if the board has any other questions. Jeff, do you have any questions or concerns?
No.
That was okay. Delisa?
No, I think that Amazon has done a great job at addressing all of our concerns, and I really appreciate the donation of the land. I think that's great.
Jerry, are you good?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great plan. I'm good.
Okay, all right, Anna, you're up. I held you to the end, you're up. Or maybe she left.
Mark, come on.
He's there.
I know. All right.
So I would
Questions or
agree I really do appreciate all that has been done to be able to make this a workable solution for everybody. I wanted to highlight just a couple of small things, but they are things that we've talked about in the past real quick. In terms of the number of vans, I know that we have talked about having 450 spaces. Is that right? 450 spaces, but 350 vans?
Up to 350.
Up to
Well, actually, why don't you address it to Larry? Why don't you let Larry answer you? How's that, Larry? Are you there?
I don't see Larry.
No, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, there you are. Hi, Larry. So I just wanted to talk about the actual number of vans, because we talk about the number of van parking spaces, but in terms of the number of vans, because I do think that it's important that we actually put that number, that we memorialize that number in the decision, because I recall from the notes, the meeting notes from our December meeting, it says that you would need to have a theoretical 350 max. So I just want to make sure that that is the correct number so we can memorialize that.
Well, my suggestion would be, I don't have those meeting notes in front of me, and I can certainly look them up. And I know Todd's here with me. What we did in that letter to the board is we provided a breakdown, and my recollection was the number's a little bit higher. And if we disagree on that, I'll look it up just to be sure. Todd, do you have that information in front of you by any chance? Or Matt?
For the new participants who've entered, I do have control of your audio and video.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Todd, you'll need to unmute yourself.
But so my best suggestion, Anna, is we ought to just align that breakdown to the decision, if that is what you want to accomplish. Pull the numbers out of the letter that was represented to the planning board, and then incorporate that.
Okay.
Sorry about that. It wouldn't let me unmute, and it just let me do that.
You were in twice into the meeting, sir, for some reason.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Don't know why. The numbers for the vans that we had discussed before, based on the notes that I have sitting here in front of me, is 350 active vans. 60 would be extra spaces for vans in an emergency use, and then there was a 40 space buffer.
Right. Okay. And
So that's where the 450 total number comes from.
Right. And just so that we could identify that number, I think it should be in the decision.
That's fine.
Thank you.
I just want to verify with Brad Griggs from Amazon. Brad, those are the numbers that you recall as well, I assume.
I believe so. I know I have two colleagues on the line as well. I'll just double check again with them, but I believe those are the accurate numbers.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you.
So then my next question is related to, well, actually, it's more of a comment than anything else. I really appreciate that you provided the site-generated trips. Somebody provided the site-generated trips. I don't know if it was Green or somebody else, but it's very helpful. And I would say to the Littleton and Boxborough residents, if you go to the website, you can actually see a one-page document that identifies by time of day when you should expect to see these various vehicles on Taylor Street. And so you can go to whatever time of day you'd like, and it will let you know what the peak times For example, being at 8 to 9 o'clock at night, and then in the morning, 10 to 11 a.m. So very clearly identifies if you ever want to be not on Taylor Street. Thank you very much. I know that that was very detailed work.
Mark, I have one comment that I sort of glossed over. I think we're permitting this to Northbridge. Although it's referred to as the Amazon site, Amazon will be a tenant. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if there are problems, what is the anticipated mechanism for dealing with them? Is it through Northbridge, Amazon directly? How do we think this is going to happen?
Well, we've spoken in discussions with Larry Beal and Associates is going to, and Northbridge, are going to be the frontline people that we're going to deal with, and they're going to bring in the Amazon representatives as needed to address whatever issues we have. Is that a correct way of how we had finalized how the chain of command was going to be?
Ultimately, Northbridge is the owner of the property, the landlord. So it's like any other landlord-tenant relationship. If you have a complaint with a tenant, it's best to address both. The greatest teeth, I believe, is with the property owner, but Amazon is an active, viable business. And I would say if there's a complaint, the best thing to do is make them aware of it and let Amazon and Northbridge deal with it. I think this is a good situation because you've actually got two recourses. You go to both of them, and between the two of them, it'll get solved very quickly.
Yes, Mr. Chair, from our standpoint as the prospective tenant, we'd be happy to be points of contact. You know, I've been on these board meetings throughout dealing with you and the board there. So happy for my team to be sort of points of contact alongside of the Northbridge team. So that way you have a direct point of contact into the company for any of the operational potential future concerns. And then we also have a community operations team that we will intro to, the leadership there in Littleton to be able to engage on a variety of different community efforts from both the charitable, exchange, but also if there are operational concerns. So myself, our team, and as well as our community operations group will be the key points of contact from the company.
So can we put that in our decision, a list, a rectory of the people that will be contacted? So if there's an emergency, say there's an issue and the police department has to get involved with somebody from Amazon, that we will have a name and a contact in our decision that will be upgraded as people move up through Amazon, so we can get that for our decision.
Correct. Yeah, we have a community operations email address that we can provide that will communicate to the key points of contact for the building.
Okay.
And Mark, this is Brian Orr from Northbridge, the owner. So I'll be running point as well. So I've been on this since the original permitting for 151 a year and a half ago. So Maren knows how to get in touch with me. You guys will have my cell phone and direct email. So we'll be working hand in hand with Amazon. And we'll also update, we can provide you with a contact sheet, just in case there's any problems. And we'll make sure to continually update that just as people change.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful that we have an updated sheet for police and fire and emergency vehicles, who to contact, so we can update it as we go on your part and on Amazon's part. That would be great, and pass it along to the police and fire.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Jeff?
Yes.
All right, back to Anna.
So I had a question, kind of a blanket one. So where are we with the peer review and some of those outstanding items still?
Well, I'll let Maren confirm this, but we're done with the peer review. All the outstanding items have been resolved.
Okay, so.
Yes, I'll confirm that. We have the email confirmation from Tom from Green International yesterday, I think, and then the final list of open or recommended conditions today. and those match the draft decision.
So you're saying that anything that was outstanding in the peer review is now part of the decision?
Correct.
Okay. Well, the one thing that I wanted to go back to Larry on, actually two things. This goes back to the parking lot, my favorite thing to talk about, right? So the last time we discussed, and again, this was per the meeting notes that I saw it, that we identified doing trash pickup twice a week instead of once a week. So I hope you will still agree to that twice a week. And then indicated that the cleaning of the parking lot would be as necessary, but I wanted to know what your thoughts are as to what as necessary means and how will we define that a little bit more.
Well, my experience on parking lot sweeping is the critical times to clean a parking lot, sweep a parking lot is in the winter months or spring after it's been salted and sanded. And once it's been cleaned well in the spring, it doesn't need much additional cleaning throughout the summer because it's rain events. There's no more salting and sanding. The trash pickup removes any trash, and the parking lot sweeping is to get up particulate matter. So if you ask me to predict what I thought would be necessary is that a few times in the spring would be very helpful to pick up that sand and get it off the parking lot, keep it out of the stormwater management system. And then about in May, it really probably doesn't become necessary until October. But
Okay.
If that answers your question.
Sure, maybe if we can put a little bit of language in there that describes that from May through October, that it's on an as necessary basis, but more frequent during the months of October through April.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Anything else, Anna?
I'm just looking. No, I don't believe so. I think this is good to go.
The board, Anthony, you have your hand raised. You have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who is going to be the point of contact for Amazon? I know we have Northbridge, but one of the things I've heard in our managers association is sometimes in situations like this that we haven't been able to reach somebody on the Amazon level and not just the landlord level. So has somebody been identified in the event that we have issues that we need to deal with deal with the problem?
I think Larry, what he's asking, he wants to know how high up the food chain can we go with a representative from Amazon?
So that would be myself and our counterparts on the community operations team will be the initial points of contact, I guess, listed in the decision, as you mentioned earlier, Mr. Chair. And then we have a general community operations email alias that's monitored, monitored by the team.
Mr. Chair, through you to Brad. So are you actually going to be on site in Littleton, Brad, or?
No, and this is one of the things that we've realized with our locations is that we want to take a more centralized approach, because what ends up happening is as these sites are launched, there's usually launch leadership that gets the site up and running, and then that leadership tends to turn over and move on to help launch other sites in the region. So points of contact get changed at the site. And when that original point of contact or even future points of contact at the location are moved or change, then trying to get to the new point of contact becomes difficult for them on the operations side. So we take it on the corporate end, we are able to then facilitate whoever the new direct on-site point of contact is and get in touch with them immediately and not have to utilize our operations teams to circle back to new facility members.
All right, so then, I would assume at some point in time we're going to exchange cell phones, and hopefully we don't become too good of friends if there's any issues that we have to deal with.
We will make sure that you have all of our contact information, and that we will be as responsive as we need to be for the location there. And then additionally, you'll be meeting with our community operations regional manager, who also handles those concerns as they come in. So it'll be both of us.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions from the board or anyone have their hands raised?
There are no raised hands at the moment, sir.
That's good. Sounds like we did our job. Okay, does the board have any other questions? Are we happy with the host community agreement and the conditions of approval? One last issue, anything? I'm not hearing anyone respond back to it. What about, I'd like to close the hearing if no one has any objections, and I'd like to talk about conditionally approving it with everything we have in there, and then waiting on the host agreement being ratified by the select board. Is the board okay with that scenario?
I move to close the meeting, close the hearing.
I second.
Second, all those in favor of closing here, I'll take a roll call vote. Anna?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I lost you. Delisa?
Yes.
Jerry? I forgot who was left. Jerry?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, so we're closing the hearing now. Do you want to vote the approval with the conditions that have been worked out between, and the added ones that we've talked about, worked out between Dan Holmes and Chris? You all have a copy of it before you. Are we okay with those, and adding this, as Anna put in, the schedule of vehicles that will be added to it, and all the contact information in case there's an issue or an emergency that need to be dealt with? Are we good with that? Do we want to vote to approve, take a vote on this? Are you, Jerry, are you ready to vote it?
Yeah, I don't follow everything you just said. That's a lot of stuff.
Okay, so you have a draft of all the conditions of approval.
Yeah. So
And
we're
we're gonna
going
add
to conditions of approval as drafted?
And no, we have some additions to them. We're going to put in the schedule of values of the amount of vehicles that'll be added to it. We'll put that in, and we're going to put all the contact information as a condition. That contact information needs to be available to the police, fire, and select board, and updated as needed. So that there's always a contact person involved from the Amazon and the Northbridge side. And I think that I caught it. That's about everything we're asking to add.
Right, and as well as the trash, and then the language around the winter, spring months for the street sweeping.
Yeah, so we can add those as conditions of approval and sign it once everything's all done. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. And do we want to vote? I'd like to move forward with a vote if that's possible. So I'll entertain a motion from somebody to vote the approval of the Amazon last mile for 151, 153 Taylor Street with the conditions of approval that we have and the ones that we've just spoken about added to it for to be signed at our meeting on the 21st, after the HCA agreement is signed by the select board, agreed to and signed by the select board, and made part of this agreement as well. How's that? Someone want to second that?
I'll second it.
Hold
Okay,
on,
I'll go-
because our town council has a comment.
I was close, Chris. Okay, what do you got?
I just wanted to point out that the decision as currently drafted says that the HCA can be executed by the select board after you guys approve the decision. So if you want to wait to sign it until the HCA is completed, that's perfectly reasonable on your part. But the way it was currently structured, you wouldn't necessarily need to wait for that to happen. It would be simply be a requirement of the permit that they go off and enter into an HCA that is acceptable to the select board.
Okay, that's a good point. So we're approving it based on all the conditions of approval on ours, subject to them signing an HCA agreement with the town. That's at a later date.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. I'll ask for a roll call vote. Jerry?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Delisa?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So thank you all. This has been a long, it's been a long, interesting trip that we've been on. And I have to thank Northbridge. They've been very accommodating and very proactive to everything we've asked for. And I think that they've been very nice, very easy to deal with, as has been Amazon. Board have any other questions or anything? Let's move on to our 7:45.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you,
Thank
members.
you
very much.
Thank you, Larry. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, I wanted to add, it's been a long process, but I think it's been highly productive. We have a far better design now than what we came through the door with. So the board should be proud of that. It's much better than what we originally presented. So we thank you for that.
And I also want to thank you for the donation of the 58 acres for the water department. I think that shows that you really care about Littleton's water supply, and the fact that you're donating all your open space to the water department so they can make sure that the Littleton water supply will be the best that it's always been. And I just want to publicly acknowledge that I thought that was very nice on Northbridge's part to engage us in that and actually make the offer to do it.
Good. We appreciate that. And we'll drink the water when we're there too. So it's important to us.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Okay. So we have a 7:45 public hearing, retail marijuana establishment, special permit, water resource, special permit, site plan, 531 King Street, Community Care Collaborative.
Mark, excuse me, I'm going to recuse myself.
I think we need to read something before you recuse yourself. We don't let you off that easy.
Okay.
I think Chris is going to handle that actually, because both you and Jeff have a conflict and we need to address that.
Okay.
Chris, are you still there?
I'm here.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to walk you guys through the procedure for invoking the rule of necessity, given that it's my understanding that we have 2 board members who have a conflict of interest under the state ethics law regarding this application, but we need 4 out of the 5 in order to conduct the hearing and actually potentially approve the permit. So it's rare that this actually comes into play, but this is an example. We've looked into it, and this is an example where the rule of necessity can be invoked for both members who have a conflict of interest to the extent they want to avail themselves of it. So I'll walk you through the process. But Mark, I'm going to actually need you to, you as chair, have the official role of invoking this rule. So once I walk you through, I'm going to need you to just sort of repeat some of the steps that I've said.
Okay.
So step number 1 is that the chair states that Section 9 of Chapter 40A and the town zoning bylaw require the board to act on applications for a special permit, and that a vote of at least 4 members of the 5-person board is required to issue the permit. Number 2, that you as chair are going to state that the board lacks sufficient number of members necessary to take valid vote as a result of the disqualification of 2 members under the state ethics law. And then each member who has a conflict of interest is going to disclose what that conflict is. And then you, Mark, as chair, step number 4, is going to state that as a last resort and after consultation with town council, you have decided to invoke the rule of necessity.
Okay, so Section 9 of Chapter 40A in the town zoning bylaws require that the board act on the application for a special permit, and that the vote of at least 4 persons of a 5-member board is required in order to issue that permit. The board lacks sufficient numbers of members necessary to take a valid vote as a result of the disqualifications of 2 members under the state ethics law. Yep. Each member must disclose the fact at which this creates a conflict. And as a last resort,
we'll pause there, Mark, and now we'll turn to the members who actually have the conflicts.
I was on a roll.
Just to disclose what the conflict actually is.
Delisa, you can
Okay,
go first.
yeah, my name is Delisa Laterzo. I am the owner of a building in which Littleton Apothecary will be located, which would be a competing dispensary. And I'm also an investor in that enterprise.
Okay. And Jeff?
My property is within 300 feet of the proposed location of the pot shop, and I've been advised by the State Ethics Commission that that constitutes having a financial interest. So I was prepared to recuse myself.
Okay.
Very good. And now back to you, Mark, for step number 4.
As a last resort and after consultation with Chris Heap, Town Council, he has decided to invoke the rule of necessity in this matter. So we need at least one of you to come back on the board, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Mhm. So Jeff, are you prepared to come back on the board?
Yes, I am.
Delisa, you want to, do you want to stay off or do you want to come back on?
You have to unmute, Delise.
You have to unmute
muted.
yourself.
Oops, sorry about that. I would feel more comfortable remaining recused from this matter.
Okay, so at least we have 4 members. We can proceed with 4, correct, Chris?
Yes, 4 is sufficient to conduct the hearing and to issue the permit, provided the applicant and the board understands that the vote of all 4 participating members will be necessary to actually issue it. You need 4 out of 5, and just because we're now 4 out of 4, you still need those 4 votes.
Okay, does the participant, does a participant have a say in this, or it's 4 out of 4?
It appears that 4 out of 4 is the best that we can offer the applicant. So I don't know that they have. I think they have to proceed with the 4 out of 4.
Okay, all right. So they don't have much of a choice, in other words. Nope. Okay, all right. Just wanted to check. Okay, so we have 4 members of the planning board here. We have a number of participants, and we have the people from Community Care Collaborative.
Right, should we go through the reading of the notice?
Yes, please.
Okay. It just disappeared. Hold on. Sorry about that. Consolidated public hearing, adult use marijuana establishment, retail special permit, Water Resource District special permits, 531 King Street. The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a consolidated public hearing on Thursday, January 7, 2021 at 7:45 p.m. to consider the application for special permits pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. The application is for retail adult use marijuana establishment and Aquifer Water Resource District special permits and site plan review under sections 173.16 through 173.19, 173.61 through 173.64, and 173.194 through 173.202 of the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. Property location 531 King Street, units 456, assessors map U7, parcels 8-4 through 8-6. Applicant Community Care Collective, Inc., owner Kingswood Corp. The applicant is seeking an adult use marijuana establishment, retail, and Aquifer and Water Resource District special permits to allow retail marijuana sales at this site. It gives you the location of the application and plans to be viewed, and that the hearing will be via Zoom with the information posted on the planning board agenda at least 48 hours prior to this meeting. Please feel to call the planning board office 978-540-2425 with any questions. Signed, Jeff Yates, clerk.
Thank you, Maren. Do we have a representative from Community Care Collaborative who wants to start and give us an overview of where we're at?
Yeah, that'd be Paul.
Paul Alphin? Paul, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just got unmuted. My name is Paul Alphin. I'm an attorney from Westford, Massachusetts, and I'm pleased to represent Community Care Collaborative regarding the proposed adult use marijuana establishment at 531 King Street. We'll also hear tonight from Michael Allen, Brian Goudreau from Hancock Associates, and the principal of Community Care Collaborative, David Gianetta. We've submitted 198 pages of application. We will not go through all 198 pages, but we'll try to paraphrase for you some of the more important parts of the application. Because there's no exterior construction. Yes.
You check your mic. I don't know what it sounds like to everybody else, but it's really bad.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bit of an echo.
Okay, how's this?
Sounds
Much
better.
better.
Hold up. How's this? How's it testing 1, 2?
You're
Yeah,
good.
it sounds fine. You're
Very
good.
Okay. All right. All right. Testing 1, 2. Do you have me?
Yeah, it sounds good, Paul.
Okay. No exterior alterations are proposed, and there's no exterior constructions proposed here. So much of what we're going to talk about is internal activities. Security, for example, is something we'll emphasize, but you also, as part of site plan review, will want to review the parking, traffic, and lighting. This hearing is a culmination of many years of work, most of which you are intimately aware of, going back to the working group in 2017, the adoption of the bylaw in 2018. In the overlay district, the property situated in the overlay district. Its location at 531 King Street. Since the adoption of the bylaw, the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, solicited requests for information. Our client was one of the applicants for submitted information. The board reviewed it. There was a first community outreach meeting was held in May of 2019, followed by a revised proposal to the Select Board. In November 2019, the Select Board voted to begin host community agreement negotiations with our client, and the host community agreement was signed in March. There was a second community outreach meeting in August, followed by the submission of an application to the Cannabis Control Commission in September. The Select Board voted to sign the municipal zoning certification letter and send it to the Cannabis Control Commission in September. In November, our client received a provisional license from the Cannabis Control Commission, which is one of the necessary prerequisites for the board to act on this application. Much of the criteria within the special permit procedures within section 173-198 pertain to policies and procedures pertaining to security. So in that regard, we have our Chief of Security, Michael Allen here, who will summarize some of the salient points regarding the security procedures, unless you have a preliminary question for me.
Excuse me, sir, are you sharing your screen?
No.
Okay, thank you. We just wanted to be sure.
Okay.
So Michael Allen, can Michael Allen be turned on?
Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if you want to turn on my video, Maren. That's possible.
Yep. Should be able to do it now, sir.
Okay, great. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I know I introduced myself at the last meeting that we had, but I'll refresh on that for you all on my background and experience. My name is Mike Allen. I've been a security consultant for the cannabis industry now for just over 4 years. Prior to doing that, my majority of my working life was as a police officer. I spent 30 years as a police officer in Rochester, New Hampshire. My last 5 were as police chief before retiring and going to work in the cannabis industry. Got into it as a result of a cultivation facility opening in my community when I was police chief. So really took an interest in the industry and have been really working over the past 4 years, learning much from the mistakes of many of the operators that have been involved in the industry over the last 4 years. And so I think we, in terms of security for this particular facility, we've done everything right. And so I can start out by telling you that I have worked very closely with Chief Plnbrd from your police department in the development of this security plan. This plan incorporates the best practices of the security industry. It incorporates the concepts of crime prevention through environmental design, which I happen to be a certified instructor in from my law enforcement days. And it really, again, takes into account all the best practices and lessons learned from the evolution of the adult use industry over the past 4 years. So to give you just an overview of the things that are contained within the security plan itself, it really encompasses from a physical security standpoint in the building, a very comprehensive video surveillance system. That's kind of one of the staples of our physical security systems in the building. We have video surveillance cameras, state-of-the-art cameras, HD resolution, tamper-resistant, just top-notch. One of the top 2 camera manufacturers in the space, both inside, covering every square inch of the facility, as well as the exterior, the parking area, and situational awareness beyond the parking area. So that's really a big point to make. Alarm systems within the building. We have motion sensors, panic alarms, door contacts, shock sensors, glass breaks, all the things that are really required, not just by best practices, but by the Cannabis Control Commission. These are all things that I've been through many inspections particularly over the past year and a half. And these are all things that the Cannabis Control Commission likes to see in these facilities. And then you have our door access system and our really 3 levels of access within the facility. So we break it down by level 1, which is essentially the entry vestibule, which has been expanded and is separate from our exit to the building. So when you come into the facility, you enter in what we call in the industry a man trap, which you have to have your identification checked by a registration agent that's within that entry vestibule. Once that ID is checked, it's then scanned through an electronic ID verification scanner that also can check for fake identification. It can check for passports, whether they're valid. It's one of the best systems in the industry. Once that's been verified, the customer is allowed entry into the level 2 area, which is the dispensary floor area. So they'll get buzzed in by the agent at the registration desk, get greeted by a registration agent within the dispensary floor area. If there's education that needs to be done, consultation, that's done with that agent. If a customer is pre-ordering or wants to shop in the store, go directly to the POS station, they'll do that as well. But we'll be offering that educational assistance to our customers once they make their purchase. Then they exit through the separate exit that's located off of the dispensary floor area. And you should all have a copy of the floor plan. I don't have the ability to share that on my screen here. I don't have it up, but you should. I'm happy to walk anyone through that if there needs to be clarification made on that. So that's essentially the flow within the facility. The deliveries is another area I wanted to touch upon, because that's always something that gets questions asked about. So our delivery process is a very secure, safe transportation procedure. We have at the back of our facility a secure receiving door that will be encompassed by a secure gated delivery port, exterior delivery port that the delivery vehicle will drive into. The gate gets secured, then the product gets unloaded into the secure delivery area. Once they're inside, then the door is closed. The product gets inventoried, weighed, meeting all the requirements again of the CCC, and then the delivery vehicle will exit the port, the delivery port. So the delivery vehicles themselves, when they arrive, the days, the times of day, day of week, that all is randomized. So there's no delivery pattern that someone would be able to detect on when a delivery is going to be made to the facility. The vehicles are nondescript. There's no markings on them. You can't see inside the vehicle. There's always 2 delivery drivers that are required by CMR. They have secure radio communication. The vehicles have GPS in them. They have alarm systems in them. They have cameras in them. It's a very secure delivery process. Another big question that gets asked is, what are you going to do about diversion of product at our facility? So we really have put in place some pretty strict anti-diversion measures. One I already mentioned with the electronic ID verification scanner to ensure no one can get into our facility with a fake ID. Some other things that we'll do is a very comprehensive training program. All our employees will go through the state mandated responsible vendor program. But in addition to that, we'll exceed the requirements by doing our own in-house training. I provide that training myself in the area of fake ID identification. I also provide training to staff on workplace violence issues. So again, reverting back to my law enforcement days, was an instructor and active attacker. Workplace violence issues, de-escalation strategies for our staff and dealing with potentially an upset customer. So all that training will be provided to all of our staff, to include our security staff. We'll also be doing daily inventory of our products and our cash that we keep in the facility. So we want to make sure that our inventories are accurate on a daily basis, and that's something we'll be doing. Signage is another thing that is important, both for customers when they come into our entry vestibule, as well as when they leave our facility. There'll be signage at the exit that lets customers know that public consumption is illegal. that loitering is not allowed in our parking lot, that diversion of product is illegal, and that our staff will be trained to detect those types of things, so that if anything like that were to be observed, immediate notification would be made to the Littleton Police Department to have them respond to address that particular situation. What else? Lighting in the parking lot, another kind of what I consider to be one of those CPTEDs, crime prevention through environmental design issues. We're really providing a very well-lit parking lot to provide for the safety of our employees, our guests, and make sure that the area is well-lit for video surveillance. We'll have on-site security staff, both inside the facility and outside the facility in the parking lot. One of the big concerns in this industry, again, is diversion. Someone coming in, purchasing product, and potentially diverting that to someone under the age of 21 in our parking lot or outside of our parking lot. So we really want to pay close attention to that by having our own security staff patrolling the exterior parking lot. And those will be uniformed, they're unarmed, but are very identifiable. So it'll send a strong message to our customers that that type of activity would not be tolerated. And again, immediate notification to the police would be made.
Thank you. Can I stop you there? We have.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. We have
very comprehensive, Mark.
No, we have a lot of people on who probably want to speak.
Gotcha.
And the most important thing was the inside and the outside security, which you covered, which you did a great job. So if there's another presentation, I'd like to hear that, other parts of this. Otherwise, I'd like to, and like I said, we have 34 participants, so probably.
Understood.
Brian would be up next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So to keep my presentation brief, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates, with the civil engineers on this. We did site development. We're here for site plan approval. But the unique part about this application and project is there's really no site changes. We have an existing building with adequate square footage for the proposed use, as well as the existing tenant and 2 additional tenant spaces. The only improvement to site screening is going to be a fence that's located along the eastern property line and run south along the southern property, western property to El Forno. And that was part of the community reach out that was done and is actually part of the host community agreement. There's on-site stormwater management, there's on-site wastewater, and there's adequate on-site parking. And if you look at the site plan that was submitted previously, now there was a slight, I guess, clerical error in that the hard copies of the site plan reflected the discussion, or excuse me, the brand, our application site plan. Thank you, Paul, for putting that on. So the site plan that was included as part of the application package in PDF format was actually the discussion site plan, whereas what was submitted with the application is the plan that you see before you. Now, really, the only substantial change out of kind of clarifying specific areas of the building that are being occupied in the screening is the parking calculation. And that is the one kind of item that I'd like to spend a little bit of time with. So what we've done is we've analyzed parking in 2 very specific manners. So there's 47 spaces on site today. And what we've done is we've analyzed parking to zoning compliance for the existing tenant. It's an office tenant for 1 space per 150 square foot, or excuse me, 1 space for 250 square feet. And then the proposed use for community care collective. And they are a retail space at 150 square feet per space. So with that proposed use and existing tenant, we have 24 required spaces, and we have 47 on site. Now, to take a step back, what happens if the existing tenant with the office use and the lower demand parking vacates? So we took a look at the building with the 3 remaining tenant spaces and the applicant, all as retail, at 1 space per 150 square feet. And that parking demand is at 46 spaces, and we have 47 spaces available. So regardless of the configuration of the site, regardless of the tenant mix, there's adequate parking. Chief Allen spoke to site lighting as a part of the security package, and realistically, I'd just like to reiterate that we're not improving or changing this site outside of that additional screening that was included as a part of the HCA. If there's any specific questions about the nuances of what's going on out there with grading or stormwater or wastewater, I'm here to answer questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to David Gianetto with Community Care Collective.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And thanks to everybody for having us tonight. So I just wanted to just quickly touch on, in our application packet, I provided a background letter for those who aren't aware of my background and who I am. Obviously I'm a resident here in town, been here in town for almost 20 years. I've got children in the school system, a wife who was born and raised in town, brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, mother, father-in-laws, aunts, uncles, cousins, and a mother who all live here in town. I've sold real estate, built houses, renovated houses for a number of clients in town. So, my point in explaining this is that, I have a pretty favorable reputation to uphold. And so with that in mind, I intend to operate a safe and secure operation, which, as we know, will create a strong revenue stream to the town. I've been extensively vetted by not only the select board, but also partly through with town council during our HCA negotiations. And of course, the Cannabis Control Commission, who puts you through quite an extensive vetting process. I've worked closely with Chief Plnbrd of the Littleton Police Department, and he overall is very comfortable with everything we've provided to him. I intend on being very hands-on with the management and the operation of the store. We've already hired a director of operations who will work with me in the preparation of opening the store and also operating the store. Of course, we have our chief of security, Mike Allen. He'll be handling all aspects of security. And we also have an inventory manager who will be responsible to maintain an efficient flow of inbound and outbound inventory. We also intend on hiring multiple store managers and additional staff members to appropriately staff the operation. And so, in specific here, we've all worked together, and I personally have worked pretty long and hard on this application packet. And also, you heard the timeline from Attorney Alphen. Spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money getting to this point, and I'm very hopeful that the board will consider us for the special permit, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, David.
Thank
you. Do you have anyone else that wants to present, or can I open up to the?
That'll
That's
be
it right now.
Yes.
Open it up to the board, and then get a chance, maybe some residents. Okay. Does the board have any questions? No particular order. Jeff, maybe I'll leave you for last, Jeff. Jerry, do you have any questions or concerns at this point?
Not at this time.
Okay. Anna?
So I had a couple of questions for Mr. Allen with respect to the process of from the diagram, from the process of where the product itself gets over to the checkout desk, I believe it's called, or the order pickup desk. So will a staff member actually be physically walking the product over, and will that be open space where the individual walks, or will they be secured in any other manner? I was just trying to figure that out based on the plan that I saw.
Yeah, and David, you can clarify, but my recollection of the layout, if I could look at the layout on the screen, that'd be great. Be easier to explain.
Paul, can you zoom in on that, please? A little to your right.
The little plus button.
Yeah, I know. There's a Zoom. There was a Zoom message there that was blocking. Let me try that again.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we quit while we're ahead?
Okay, that's perfect. So customer, if the question was it Anna, was it your question? What happens once they get the product from the purveyor gets it to the customer? How do they get it to them?
Because what I see on this, it's pretty small, where it says transactionary up to the upper right-hand side, but then it says order pickup in the lower left-hand corner. So I was just wondering how the product gets from upper right-hand corner to the order pickup area.
So David, do you want to walk them through that?
Yeah, so the way that we intend on handling the, I guess the product movement in the way that you're asking it is, so customer would approach the transactions area, arrive at one of the point of sales, the order will be placed, then the order will be sent electronically over to the order pickup. And at that point, that's when the customer will walk down toward the order pickup, retrieve what it is that they ordered, just confirm it was in fact what they ordered. They're going to have a receipt with them, and from that point, be handed the package with the product inside, and then they'll exit out where you see the exit sign.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying then is there is no actual product to be handed over in the transaction area. It's
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And then my second question for Mr. Allen around security is, so the vehicles that will be doing the drop off, how large of vehicles are these expected to be?
Yeah, so most of the vehicles that the cultivation facilities use, or the facilities that we'll be purchasing wholesale from, are a small van style vehicle, like a Ford Transit, or what is typically used by most cultivation facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a small van type vehicle that most use.
Okay.
It's a Ford Transit style of vehicle.
And with respect to any backup beeping noises that might be associated with that type of a vehicle, or are there any type of beeping noises associated with that type of vehicle? So you mentioned that deliveries could be made at various points in time, and so if those are going to be in early morning or evening hours, the noise is something that could potentially be heard. So I was wondering about that.
We would not have, they wouldn't have that feature. None of the vehicles I've seen have any backup, a signaling notification that would signal that it's not a commercial type vehicle. So it's just a regular passenger vehicle that backs up just like any other passenger vehicle.
Okay, thank you. And then Mr. Goudreau, thank you for letting us know about the change in the site plan document. That will be helpful to get to see that final one, because I had some questions on that.
No problem.
Do you have any other questions, Anna? I didn't, did you say no?
Yes.
No. Oh, you're
So-
good?
So I had a question about the site itself. With respect to the units to be used for this being 4, 5, and 6. So I was wondering what units 1, 2, and 3 are intended to be used for. I know that somewhere in the documents I saw that there's a hearing aid company. So what about units 2 and 3? And I ask this because there is a specific area in the application process that talks about an accessory use, and there wasn't a response there. So I just wanted to be clear what the vacant units are intended to be used for.
We don't have any, we have a lease for the units 6, 5, and 4. So it's really not in my control as far as what the use of units 2 and 3 will be for. If that answers the question.
Well, right. If you don't know, you don't know, and it's not in your purview. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But no anticipated accessory uses of this use are planned for the other units. I think that's a direct answer to the question, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a couple of others, but Mark, perhaps you have other questions as well.
Just let me ask Jeff if he has any questions or concerns. Jeff, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Not at this time.
Okay.
I'm very,
Anna,
very I just do want to say I'm very familiar with the building.
Okay. All right, a couple more, then maybe we'll open it up to the public. If you have a couple more questions or concerns.
For me? Or
Yeah.
from me?
Yep.
Well, I would say that the one concern that came up was in taking a look at the, let me find it here, the special permit requirement under 173-199, talking about no marijuana retail facility within 500 feet of all of these different types of entities. And one of them is a public park. And so given that this property line is actually less than 500 feet from the town green, which is a public park, it doesn't meet that particular bylaw.
Okay. Since you brought it up, we were made aware of that issue. We spoke with town council. Town council has reached out to Attorney Alphen and made his client aware of that. It is an issue. It is something the planning board's going to need to weigh in on. Mr. Alphen, you had your hand up before I go any further. Why don't I let you speak to that if you want to speak to it right now?
I don't want to interrupt you, though.
No, I just want to tell everyone that we're aware of it. It's unfortunate to find it out at the 12th hour, and it's an issue that was brought to our attention, and it's something we're going to have to weigh in on. And I know have you spoken with town council about this, or?
I have, and I have a couple of comments about it, and we don't have to resolve it tonight. I appreciate, but in terms of some of the responses that we would have is that we're not certain it's the type of it's a park, a public park as defined by this particular bylaw for a couple of reasons. One is that if you go to the park department's website, their public parks, playgrounds are closed, and they're identified as being the King Street Castle in the Trees, Adian's Playground and Basketball Courts, Fay Park, Long Lake Beach, but this is not considered to be one of their parks. Another reason is that this type of issue was addressed in 2017 regarding another a marijuana cultivation operator, the Sanctuary Medicinals, and there was the Liberty Square in Boxborough, which was questioned as if that was a park and for purposes of measuring the distance from a park. And the board concluded, based upon an opinion from town council, that Liberty Square was not a park for purposes of the bylaw. So I think that perhaps we can go back and take a look at the meeting minutes from February 16, 2017, and the advice you got from council at that time regarding how a park is defined. I think one of the more interesting arguments or facts are that the adult use marijuana establishment overlay district map, I'm going to try to share my screen again, but now, there we go, specifically includes all of the land around the town common. So I'd like to say that when the people that put together this map considered this map, that they did not consider that to be a park for purposes of the retail marijuana, adult use marijuana establishment bylaw, or else they would not have designated the area around the park as being a permitted area within which you can have an establishment. Additionally, as part of this review process that I went through, the town issued a municipal response letter to the Cannabis Control Commission in which they recited that the applicant is compliant with the municipal bylaws. And as we have also heard this evening, the selectmen deliberated, negotiated, and entered into a host community agreement knowing where this was to be located. So I can't believe anybody at that time believed that the common was considered a park for purposes of the bylaw. Just because the park department maintains the property does not necessarily mean that it's a park for purposes of the bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does the board have any other questions or concerns? I think, Paul, you're absolutely right. This is not an issue that we're going to resolve tonight in the first place. We were made aware of it, and we do need to look into it. So let's put it that way. Not having heard anything else from the board right now, I'd like to open up to the public input if they have any questions or concerns at this time. I know we're running a little late. I don't want to close it just yet. I'd like to keep it open for a little bit. I'd like people to, if they're going to have a comment, maybe make it brief and not reiterate the same stuff, and try to take in as many people. I see 35 participants on this call, so I'd like to try to hear everybody that has a question or a concern, and maybe we'll take like 15 minutes and move on after that. Maren, does anyone have their hand raised?
Yes, Kathy Zeng.
Yes, hi. Thanks for offering the opportunity to hear about. First of all, I'm strongly object to have such a facility to my backyard, and we are boarding to each other. I already expressed my deep concern about this, drug people around. It's very, what should I say? I feel pressured. I wish I could have moved out, sold my property ahead of this, but obviously it's not in a good time to do that. One question I want to know: how do you enforce all your promises? Who can verify you deliver what you did? Such as you were going to put a fence, such as you put, you don't allow your customer to stay in your yard to consume this marijuana thing. What happens if your customers become out of control in an illusion caused by your marijuana or those things? I have deep concern about those things. I never had heard any good story about it. I heard horrible stories about it. Now I'm just 5 yards from your place. I feel very, very deeply unfortunate.
Well, thank you. I'll answer for the cannabis community care collaborative. All the conditions that we put on it will be in their decisions, meaning if the fence has to go in before they can open, whatever the lighting, the traffic, all that has to be parts of the actual writing of the decision that we write. As far as the security goes, that's why we're asking about inside and outside security. We're going to be very cognizant of outside security for this. We're going to make sure that there's somebody outside to make sure people buy the product, get in their car, and they leave. We're going to make sure they enforce no loitering and things like that. That's why the security is very important, and that's why Chief Plnbrd has looked at it and weighed in on it. So it is definitely a concern of not only the town, but of this board. So we will do the best we can to police that without having to have actual police there on a regular basis. So anyway, I hope I answered that to your satisfaction. Maren, somebody else's hand up?
Yeah, check to coast.
Chuck, are you there?
I am. You got me?
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, Maren. Thanks, Mark, and for all the members of the planning board for letting me speak. I just wanted to speak to some of the statements that have been made. Attorney Alphen had summarized some of what I had hoped to speak to tonight relative to the overlay district and the fact that the select board had multiple meetings in the negotiations of the HGA, as well as in determining whether or not this was a feasible site to be cited. And we have, on a couple of occasions, signed documents to that end, saying that the municipality does in fact endorse this location as meeting our zoning. It is in the overlay district, and we would not have moved forward with any HGA agreements if we felt as though it was within any of the setbacks that were set forth by the bylaw. So I think the intent of the bylaw is in question here. So to your point, Mark, and to Attorney Alphen's point, in all likelihood, this will not be resolved tonight, but I just wanted to, as kind of the individual who has drawn the straw, whether it be short or long, for all things cannabis within Littleton for the past several years, I've been kind of front and center with all things cannabis, and I've been involved in all conversations, all HCAs, and vetting any locations, and it's going on to this day, where we still have some folks that are coming in and looking to site locations within our community. It is something that we voted for as a community. It is legal in Massachusetts, and we had an opportunity to determine whether or not we wanted it to be cited in Littleton. The Littleton voters have spoken, and therefore the select board has acted based upon the direction that the residents have given us. We can only operate within the bylaws that are given, and that kind of gives us some direction and some position to move forward. And excuse me, the overlay district very much outlines where, in fact, we could cite any type of cannabis establishment. This establishment has been going through the process with the town for several years, well, for a couple of years anyhow, as has Littleton Apothecary from earlier. I think that for us to, at this point, the day of or the evening of this hearing, for us to question whether or not this is within a zone or this is within a setback is unfortunate. There were several opportunities for anybody in the community, including members of your board, Mr. Montanari, to come forward and say, hey, we need to question whether or not this location is a park. And in this instance, we made that determination when we set up the overlay, and we made that determination when we determined whether or not Community Care Collaborative could locate at this location on King Street. So that is why the select board voted unanimously with those that were in attendance to move this application forward and allow this application to be put forward to the state. The state has done a very detailed vetting process, and for us to do anything other than hear the merits of this application and the reasons that they're before you tonight are for special permitting. It's for things like the fencing and make sure they have the parking. And is there any, to Mr. Goudreau's point, what is going to be impacted on the site? Nothing. So I will speak for myself as a member of the select board who's been involved with this process from the very beginning. But the select board as a whole did in fact vote on two different occasions to send a letter to the state, to the Cannabis Control Commission, to allow for this operation to be operated out of this location.
Okay, thank you, Chuck.
I'm sorry, did I put you to sleep, Mark?
No. I was just waiting to make sure you were done.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mara, does anyone else have their hand up?
Yep, Lauren Borba.
Okay,
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, ma'am.
Great. I had actually a couple questions and actually wanted first to start with the park location because that was actually something that I wanted to bring to the attention. Is that this location is less than the 500 feet to the park, and as you look at the bylaws, it squarely calls that out as in violation of the laws. And Chuck, thank you for kind of speaking to the Board of Selectmen, and this is actually something that I did bring up to the Board of Selectmen during the whole kind of vetting process for the HCA. And at the time, I can't remember the exact words, but essentially it was commented that, that the Board of Selectmen was making a decision on the application in full, and that it would be up to the planning board to make the decisions and whether or not they are in compliance with the bylaws. So my question to the board is who has the decisions on whether or not this violates the bylaws? Is it the Board of Selectmen or is it the planning board?
I guess I'll answer that one. It's our jurisdiction. We still have town council on the line if he wants to address it, but it's going to be up to us to make a determination about that and whether we're going to ask for a waiver and moving forward. But I would say unless Chris, you want to weigh in on it, I think it's going to be dropped right into the planning board's lap to decide one way or the other about whether it's a park and whether, if in fact it is a park, whether we should ask for if they're entitled to a waiver from the 500 feet. Is that a fair assessment, Chris?
I think that's right, Mark. Yeah, we're here right now on a public hearing on the application for a special permit from the planning board. So this is the ultimate determination as to whether or not the criteria are satisfied and whether the permit should issue or is up to, at this stage, to the planning board. I'd like to think that that's with, guidance from our office, from case law, from, state regulations and state statute on marijuana, all of which may come into play in this analysis. But ultimately, it is going to be up to the planning board as to whether or not this permit issues or not.
Thank you. Maren, anyone else have their hand up?
No other hands raised.
No other hands are raised?
Mr. DeCoste has his hand raised again.
Okay. Chuck, are you there?
I am. Yeah, just so, Lauren, thank you for bringing that up. But there was questions as to whether or not the Robinson Road house, the Furbush house, whatever it's called, the 12 Robinson Road house, whether or not that as a cultural center would be within the 500-foot buffer. I have no recollection of the common being addressed as a park. And to earlier points, when we made a determination through town council that Liberty Square was not in fact a park, an area to congregate, that was, if it were brought up, that I would assume that that's probably the decision that we leaned back on. But again, I'll just go back on the fact that we went through a vetting process in order to determine whether or not this was a site that was valid within our bylaws, and made the determination to move forward and to send this to the state, and the state in fact vetted it as well. Thank you for letting me speak again.
Thank you. Okay, having no
You
other
have
hands-
another hand raised against her by Miss Barba.
Okay. Lori, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I got remuted. I had just another statement, if you will, that I wanted to communicate to this planning board. You know, and I don't want to speak necessarily for the rest of the residents on Robinson Road. I know there's a few of us in attendance that do feel the same way. Or, you know, more than a few of us, I should say. But we have communicated to the Board of Selectmen kind of ad nauseum, but want to really formally communicate it to this board that I am a resident of Robinson Road, which is in a better to Community Care Collective, and the proposed site. This street is a highly densely populated neighborhood with really young children. We have 10 children within, call it 15 houses that are school-age children, with 2 others on the way. These kids are playing in the backyards, running in between houses, of course, with our parental supervision. And in fact, we often play in the backyard of the home that directly abuts Community Care Collective. If you have not visited the site, you can see just how close this building is to the backyard where our children often play. So this property is in a very unique placement in that, again, it is a direct abutter to a highly densely populated neighborhood with really young children. You know, as you think about kind of the bylaws and things that are out there, I know that we do not classify, of course, as kind of your daycare, if you will. But the site of this proposed property is highly contested, and we are, you know, fully against it as a neighborhood. Dave knows this absolutely. We have spoken to him. We have met with him to communicate our objection and our strong objection to this. And we have done nothing but communicate our strong objection. So I wanted to just formally communicate that to this board as you consider making your decision, you know, knowing that this is less than 500 feet from a public park and also a highly contested site from those who are abutting the proposed site.
Thank you, Lauren.
Just again, wanted to make that as a statement.
Thank you. Again, we have more people with their
There
hands
are
up.
two more hands raised. Emily Sykes.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thanks, Lauren. I'm also a resident of Robinson Road. I remember when the application process first started, the residents of Robinson Road were very vocal about the location, proposed location. And, you know, as we've gone through the process, that's been really consistent. That hasn't changed. We have, as Lauren said, there are at least, what we have 12 houses and 10 small kids. I have a 1-year-old, I have a dog. We have dogs that are in the neighborhood roaming in our backyards. You know, we're really concerned about not necessarily what happens in the store, but what happens when people leave. You know, I was listening at the beginning, the presentation about the reinforcement of security in the parking lot, and we're a dead-end street. This is not a commercial area. This is a residential area with a dead-end street. We have a field at the end of our street. I think if anyone on this call doesn't think that it's a very strong likelihood that people will be driving down to our street to consume what they've purchased at the store as soon as they leave the parking lot, which is monitored, I think that's really, it's a very high risk. And I think this planning board should take into consideration that they're assuming the risk to our community if this location is approved.
Okay,
Thank you, Emily.
Yep. Mike Flanagan.
Mike, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just 26 Robinson Road, just reiterating, giving support to the words, Lauren and Emily, others have said. So we got young kids here, dogs, out on the road. It's a dead end road. We're worried about cars going around the corner, parking on the road, using product.
But we are actually also, our yards sort of abut the Zhang backyard as well.
Yes.
So we have a direct view of, this is Loud East Flanagan, Mike's life. Also a direct view of where the location might be. So not only light pollution, but a lot of concerns come and arise from this specific location.
Thank you.
Well, obviously we'll be addressing, making sure the lighting adheres to Littleton bylaws.
Excuse me, Marin, I'm not sure if you can see. I can't raise my hand electronically, but I'd like to speak if I may.
Mark?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. So these, I agree, are not new concerns. I'll be the first to acknowledge they're not new concerns. However, my feeling was the best way to address what we've just heard, which is roaming children, roaming dogs, is to install a fence around the perimeter of the property, because it would keep any concern from anybody on the Robinson Road side accessing our location. And likewise, it would keep anybody on our location accessing the Robinson Road location if that were to happen for any reason. So that was really something that came up often through the select board. And that's why I have yet to see this in any other community, that in the host community agreement, there's a site plan condition referenced as an addendum to that HCA. Never seen that before. We have a diagram in there indicating that I already agree that I will be installing a fence around the perimeter to mitigate any of these types of concerns. And, the likelihood of somebody coming out of our location at 531 King Street across from IBM, taking a left-hand turn, approaching the light, then taking another left-hand turn, then having to go up past a few other businesses on the left-hand side and say, oh, I'm going to take a left on a Robinson Road to go use. I just don't know that that's a reality. But we can't obviously control that. But if that's a nuisance, I would hope that that would get reported to the police department, and then we would do whatever possible from our end to inform our customers specifically. And we're happy to do that anyway, if that's the case. But, I just feel that we've addressed a lot of these issues up front through the select board. And, I understand completely. We're not going to address the issue of referencing the Littleton Common as a public park, but that we know was not the intent of the planning board, which Mark, you were on the board at the time, that the planning board was whom created the overlay. Why would a board create an overlay that has a number of parcels, available parcels in the overlay? So this is where we say we're allowing an applicant to locate their marijuana retail establishment at these locations surrounding what today we're now calling a park. Does everybody know that in the last 10 years, through the town's annual reports, that it's the Park and Rec has never referenced those parcels of land as a public park?
All right, David, we're running out of time. I'm going to stop you there. I'm just going to say one thing about the overlay district for the marijuana facility. We use zoning lines. We used the Littleton Common area. We used the area that takes us down to the point where we stop. That's how the zoning lines, that's how the marijuana lines were determined. We used the zoning lines down by where the industrial site is, down where the Sandville facility is. We used regular zoning lines. It was allowed in the Littleton business zone. That's why the lines are there. They do include parks. They do include schools. They do include churches. So they're in there. So the fact that they're in there doesn't mean that we sat there and took every single parcel and made sure everything wasn't 500 feet. That's not what the marijuana group that wrote the bylaw and put in the maps. That wasn't their job. Their job was to just give a general area where it can go, and then it went from there. So to say that we, because we put a generalized map in there and that it should be included because of that, that's not how this was done. And I just want to stop it at that. We still need to address it with town council. We have to address it as the board. And obviously it's not going to be an issue that's going to be resolved today. We'd hope that we can find out what's going on with it in our next planning board meeting, but everybody that's raised their hand has already spoken. We have other meetings to attend to, so I think I'm going to continue this hearing till, what's the date in February that we're meeting, Maren?
Thursday, February 4th.
Okay, what time do you want to put it on for?
Would you like this one early?
Sure.
Okay.
Put it on early. Yeah.
So,
why don't we make it the first?
Do this one right at 7?
7 o'clock is great. Why don't we do it? Is that good for everybody? David, is that good for you, that February 4th at 7?
My son's birthday, but I'll be there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Would you rather we postpone it, or you?
No, I'd rather it, if we could, the January meeting.
Maren, are we full on January? The January 11th is really only a meeting with the select board and
the 21st already has the discussion on the 40R and the transfer of development rights. We have a paper street proposal to review. We just added the decision for 80 Air Road. And we have a couple bond releases and a bond, setting a new bond for Wellington Drive.
Yeah, this is going to take a little while, David. Why don't we leave you on it? But besides, that gives us time to speak with town council and see what we're going to do about the other issue. Why don't we leave it on the 4th?
There are two more with their hands raised. I would recommend you ask for letters or emails. Or
yeah, they've already spoken. We've already heard them once. Like I said, we're running late. We're continuing this. I'd like to leave it at that. Why don't we continue this till February 7th at 7 o'clock.
February
4th at 7 o'clock. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry we're a little late. We have an 8:30 continued public hearing, modified Aqua District special permit and site plan review for fuel storage and hazardous material use at 30 Air Road. No, 30 Taylor Street, excuse me, Lancaster Holdings LLC. All right, Maren.
Okay, I had to text the Lisa. 30 Taylor Street. There it is. Okay, Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 7, 2021 at 8:30 p.m. to consider the application to modify an Aquifer District special permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. The application is for an Aquifer and Water Resource District special permit under sections 173-61 through 173-64, and site plan review under section 173-16 through 173-19 of the Littleton zoning bylaws. Property location 30 Taylor Street, map U41, parcel 26, applicant and owner Lancaster Holdings LLC. The applicant is seeking to modify prior special permit approvals to allow updates to stormwater, tree and brush clearing, storage of 1,500 gallons of diesel fuel, storage of 500 to 800 gallons of oils, modifications to the parking and entry areas, and fencing, including rendering pervious up to 30% or 2,500 square feet within the Aquifer District. Goes on to tell you where you can find the applications and plans on the town website, and details about tonight's public hearing. And please feel free to call the planning board office at 978-540-2425 with any questions. Signed, Jeff Yates, clerk.
Is there somebody here to speak on this?
I'll start. Sherry Gould, Attorney Cheryl Gould. Do you have me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Littleton Road Holdings LLC. My client, Anthony Cardillo, I believe is here, and the engineer, John Field, is here. Brief overview. This site is in an aquifer district. This site had an aquifer district special permit issued in 2015. They want to modify the special permit in a small way, that's changing the bioretention area to replace it with chambers so that they can use more of the yard area. And they are not going to render impervious more than 30% as the bylaw requires. There's a proposal to change the entry driveway and door to the building. That would be to enhance that most of the traffic in and out comes right off Taylor Street and not anywhere else on the site or behind the building. And they would also like to request some fuel storage to fuel their own vehicles on site with diesel fuel, and to be able to use recycled waste oil for heating fuel within the facility. Both of the fuel storage requests will be described by the engineer to be located in double-walled containment receptacles. So I'm going to turn it over to John Field to open the site plan and describe it to you, please.
Hi, good evening. Our proposal includes, installing about 9,800 square feet of pavement at the rear of the existing building. That necessitates taking the surface infiltration system and burying it with a larger subsurface infiltration system comprised of chambers. The work also includes some site grading along the Taylor Street side that will propose to take the slope that's along the edge of the property line on their property and cut the slope or fill it, as the case may be, to a 1-to-1 slope to increase the level areas in the yard. That slope will be stabilized by riprap. Also proposed to include installing a fence along the street as well as arborvitae as shown on the plan. Inside the building, we propose to locate the fuel oil storage tanks and oil storage systems that will be protected by a double wall vessel, and also install a wash bay inside connected to a tight tank and a collection system on the outside of the building. The tight tank will be piped directly to the inside and will be maintained by a appropriate contractor. I think that includes all of the proposed alterations to the site.
Is this the old Louis Page site? Is that what this is?
Correct.
Okay, so that at the probably before 2015, it was a storage facility for Louis Page. They had a building up front and a big barn with a bunch of material stored there for fencing and screening and all kinds of things like that. And they probably went out of business, yeah, probably about 2015. So you're proposing to put in basically underground, do the drainage underground and put heating and waste oil storage in a double wall tank. One of just to bring the board up to speed, the double wall tanks are what we approved 5 or 6 years ago up at the trailer park up in Littleton to replace all the tanks, all the heating tanks they had there. They're monitored, they're self-contained, they have secondary containment built right in. And slowly they've been replacing all the older tanks out there with outdoor oil tanks. So it's not something that's uncommon in the town. We've done it quite a bit in the past. So just want to make the board aware that it's not new technology. It's been around for a while. Anyway, all right, that's my 2 cents. Does the board have any questions or concerns?
Well, yeah, I mean, what about the impervious?
So the site now contains 11,200 in building area and 12,600 in pavement. Our proposal is to add an additional 9,800 square feet of pavement, bringing the site to 28.9% impervious building and pavement area. That pavement will be at the end of the building. There will be the collection system above it, and then the subsurface infiltration below the pavement.
So you're under 30% impervious.
Well, yeah, but then, I mean, if you listen, if, Mr. Godfrey's letter to the board, he doesn't think you can get a good calculation off the materials provided. I mean, did you address this letter? Not to mention the 500 gallons is your limit on storage for petroleum products.
Could you repeat the question relative to the calculations?
Did you read it? Did you read Corey Godfrey's letter?
I'll let Gary talk about that's the Littleton Fire Department's letter.
No, Corey.
Superintendent, Littleton Water Department. He wrote a letter and basically saying that your limit, because you're in an aquifer protection district, is 500 gallons of petroleum on site. That's the limit of the bylaw. And he's questioning whether or not the materials provided allows for an accurate calculation. So I guess what we're saying is, do you, because I mean, I was looking at your site plan too. You're not really giving me it's like a technical sketch. It doesn't look like a site plan.
If I could, through you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
As I read Corey's letter, it questioned what the calculations were based upon. And I think there is a question about whether gravel is impervious. And it was the proposal of the engineer that the paved area would be counted as the impervious. But we've spoken to many people on the board and through the engineering departments that have come before your board that the gravel is not considered impervious. And so the calculations on our site plan are accurate. I don't know whether Corey's aware of what numbers were used, but the calculations will remain under 30%. We're very careful to not propose pavement that would put us in excess of the 30%.
Well, what about the petroleum storage?
So on that matter, on petroleum storage, we've come before the board to request 2 types of petroleum storage, one inside in a containment unit and the other in a fueling type tank, also in a containment, double wall containment for diesel fuel for the vehicles. If that is not something the board can waive or is willing to waive, and I direct you to the fire department's letter where they have no problem with it, but I understand the aquifer limitations. The client is prepared to request the inside heating oils and would keep that at 500. It's not going to be one huge vessel that contains 500 gallons. It's going to be 100-gallon barrels, if you will. They won't all always be full, and they won't aggregate more than if you limit us they won't aggregate more than the 500 gallons, and they will be kept in this containment unit. But we're asking for, up to 500 in and the fueling tank outside if the board can see its way clear to that.
Mark, do we need a waiver for that?
I don't think so. If you remember correctly, well, actually, it was probably, actually, you were probably on the board at the time when Digital came before us for the 1,500 gallon tank that they wanted to put for their, it was outside to furnish their diesels and everything else. And we did allow it. Matter of fact, they consequently came and took it out when I believe when they sold it, but we did allow 1,500 gallons for the diesel to support the diesel fuel to support their diesel generators. So
Right, Mark, that was Water Resource District. This is Aquifer District.
This is an aquifer district. I mean, he's right next to Beaverbrook.
Yeah.
Look, I get it. You're going to be stored in a bath. They're double wall tanks. It's not likely you're going to spill all 1,500 gallons. But I mean, from just procedurally, should we?
Well,
I mean, what do you want to do? I mean, you do it for them, you do it for everybody else.
Well, I think we have two issues. I think the heating fuel on the inside, we don't normally regulate if people want to put bigger tanks in to heat their property. If they put 500 gallons inside to heat the facility and it's double wall, I don't really think we can. I don't think we can really weigh in on it. 500 gallons. That's what our limit is. If that's what they're willing to stay.
No, Mark,
it's the outside stuff.
I'm not. That's all great, but it's Aquifer Resource District limit 500 gallons per.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they want to put the 500 inside, I think we're good with that. If they want to add it to the outside, I think that's where the issue is.
Okay,
the diesel fuel for the vehicles.
1,500 gallons of this and 800 gallons of that.
No, I'm saying just 500 inside. That's it.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just interrupt, and I'm sorry to do this. The letter that I wrote you said plus one 500 gallon tank inside, outside. And Mr. Portanti, it does not say 1,500 gallons. I should have used ONE, but I made a mistake and put one 500 gallon tank. So the request was 5 to 800 in. We're willing to limit that to 500. And the request was a second 500 outside, just to clarify.
Oh, okay. In two separate tanks, two separate locations.
Yes, sir.
Right. And my point is, I don't think we have any qualms about approving the 500 gallons inside for the heating, as far as heating goes. I think we're well within our right to approve that. Secondary containment inside the building. I can understand the board's concern about the 500 gallons outside, and that's what we need to talk about, as far as I'm concerned.
So, Ms. Gould, just to be clear, you're talking about 500 inside of each fuel and heating oil?
No, it's all going to be the same.
No.
An aggregate total of 500, and it is really waste oils that will be used for heating purposes.
Okay, so then where does the diesel to fuel vehicles get stored?
The request was to put a diesel fuel pump, like a gas station pump, on the outside.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, do you have any questions? Or concerns?
I was unclear about what appears to be like a vehicle washing station. What is something about that was going to be drained to the outside, and I just want to know more about that.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
There's no vehicle washing station, and in fact, the bylaw limits servicing of the vehicles on site, and we have specifically said that there's no servicing or washing there. It's just what you normally do when you change an oil or something like that on your own vehicle. The point of the runoff was just to make the point that there is a containment vessel, and that is also maybe John, you can help me please, but the outside also runs to a drainage system that would never get into the aquifer, because first you have the containment vessel, and then you have the way the site is established a place with a runoff of any type of runoff, whether it's
So
from the outside.
all runoff will be put into the underground structures. Okay. When you
Yes,
said outside,
that-
I didn't know if that's just water running over the pavement into the aquifer or not. Yeah. Okay.
No, not into the aquifer, into the underground structures,
Yes.
into the tight tank.
Okay.
Okay, process-wise, I have not yet sent it to Green International for a review of the stormwater. I wanted to get your feedback first on whether the board thought that was necessary on this.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I
May
mean,
I-
you're
may I-
gonna modify the side and the pavement and make sure that draining, I mean, it's water, it's an aquifer district, so.
Yeah, it's right across the street from our wells. I don't think we can not at least send it for a quick review with Green.
Yeah, that makes me nervous.
So,
Yeah. I mean, it's a narrow site too, so.
and then maybe we get some further clarification from the fire department if they have an issue with outdoor storage of the diesel fuel.
Well, their letter didn't say that.
Well, that's why I think they need to be made aware. Maybe they weren't aware that it was outside diesel fuel. So maybe we get that and get the water department back in on that while we have this going to Green.
Yep, and I think Mr. Cardillo has some more to offer.
Yeah, sure.
No, when we were just trying to clarify the oil storage, that's all. We were talking about 500 on the inside. Usually about 200 to 300 of that would be for heating purposes. It would be probably waste oil, and the other couple hundred, like Sherry said, is for capacity for like 50-gallon drums for like motor oil or hydraulic oil or something like that for our business. But I'm fine with 500 inside. That's, you know, and if we could, the theory was with the fuel is if we were basically thinking a fuel cube. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's kind of like a double wall mobile fueling vessel. And we were hoping maybe we could put that outside at 500 gallons. But if we can't, you know, it's.
Well, mobile one with, I mean, you got to have a containment pad.
Yeah, that's basically that's what a fuel cube is. It's a double-walled containment, but it's.
No, but if it's mobile, I would think you'd have to have a hard pad underneath it.
Correct. Yeah. No, we'd have a hard pad protected, you know, but it's not 1,500 gallons and it's not a gigantic fueling station. It would just be a small, what I refer to as like a fuel cube.
Okay.
I mean, what are we defining as storage in that regard, Mark? I mean, is it, to me, storage is like, yeah, I've got barrels of product that I cycle through, but in case of like, this is my 500-gallon heating oil tank to heat my building, is that storage?
Well, if in there it has to be, yeah. It has to be it has to have secondary containment. And that's what I was telling the
Well, I'm
story
just saying if you're counting on a water resource aquifer district, for definition of aquifer district, it says 500 gallons total.
Right.
Is that what the intent is for storage?
If you're going to include home heating oil in, I think it kind of has to. Then if the board so desires and wants to grant the waiver, have 500 to heat the building and then another 500 for oils that they need to use in the process of lubricating their vehicles. You know, let's face it, they all buy oil in 55-gallon drums and things like that. That's up to us to interpret whether it's 500 or it's actually more than 500.
Well, this says either or. So it says storage of heating oil or petroleum.
Right. So it's one or the other. It's not and.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to cap it at 500. Okay.
Yeah.
On the inside, anyway. I think the outside is what the real issue is. Diesel fuel to fuel the vehicles on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we're not going to resolve this evening. Why don't we send everything off to Green? ask the water department and the fire department to weigh in on this again, knowing that they want to have, maybe clarifying a little better. 2 sites, one inside, one outside, one 500, another 500. If they have a problem with 1,000 gallons, they had to get an answer from them, and then we'll decide it. And give Green, have him take a look at the drainage, and maybe we can get this all. You want to put it on next month, or we'll put it on?
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to get comments back and responses to comments in 2 weeks.
No, that's what I mean. Put it on for
Yeah.
February 4th. I remembered.
Jerry has a question.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to draw your attention to the fire department's letter of December 31, 2020, and it seems very clear to me that Tom Clancy wrote, first bullet, on-site fuel storage for an outside 500-gallon diesel fuel tank, and the second bullet says the storage of waste oil up to 800 gallons for heating purposes inside. So I think he very clearly already distinguished the inside and the outside storage of fuel that we asked about.
Okay.
So I have a quick question too. Hey, Jerry, did you say you had a concern about the site plan?
Yeah, just being able to, derive the calculation for 30%. Maybe Green can opine on that too.
Yeah.
They're going to have to. We want them to weigh in on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Make sure their calcs are right.
If
Anybody
it's
else?
possible to get Green to look at this earlier, can we get on to the next scheduled meeting in January, and we'll.
I don't think you're going to get stuff in 2 weeks. You're not going to get a 2-week turnaround.
Okay.
Why don't we leave it for February 4th? It's only a week later.
Well, I don't have any birthdays that day.
All right. Okay, so we'll, what time, Maren, on the 4th?
Do you want to do this one at 8 o'clock?
Sure.
All right. Are we good?
All right. Well,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Maren, do we have anything else, or are we pretty much done for the night?
So I heard the motion and second to continue till 8 o'clock on the 4th.
Good night,
And the
Nate.
board voted, right?
Second.
Good night.
So moved.
Everybody, we're.
Aye, yes.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
I'm
Bye.
good.
We may be, well, we have the 11th. We have the meeting on the 11th, on the 21st.
1st.
Oh, 21st, yeah.
21st, right?
We have the 21st, the 4th, and then the 11th.
What?
What?
Yes. So remember we said the 1st and 3rd in January, and then the 1st and 2nd Thursday in February and March.
Maren, do you think we're going to need the second meeting in, okay.
February.
Oh, fun.
Want me to ask her, Jeff? Maybe she'll say no to me.
Oh, you guys.
You can work on her.
Anyway, all right, I'll keep you guys appraised of what's going on. Thank you all for your
Thank
time
you.
this evening.
Good night.
Good night.
New Year.
Motion to
Yes.
adjourn.
Motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Motion to
move.
adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Yes.
All those in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're all aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.